Abuse and coercion in the performing arts. Should I walk away? Hello, I'm Sandra Mazzilli from Inner Action Counselling. Find out more at www.inneractioncounselling.co.uk. This video is talking about the performing arts, abuse in it. I made a much lighter video about giving up performing when there's dark thoughts and you don't really want to give up, but these are some of the gremlins that can attack you. And I didn't mention abuse in that one because I felt it needed its own video. So there's a link to the other one below. But this video is focusing on some of the nastier aspects of performing arts. So trigger warning, over. So whether we're on stage, on set, or in studio, performing demands a lot from us, regardless of what kind of performing we're talking about: singing, acting, dancing, acrobatics, stunt work, clowning, circus work, you name it. We've got long hours, constant competition, intense vulnerability, and the pressure to deliver every single time. If I said the show must go on, I'm sure some of you would instantly bristle, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. And even when it's going well, the work can be exhausting. You give it everything, your time, your body, your energy, often your sense of self. If you're playing a role of any kind, either you'll put a bit of yourself into it to add authenticity and maintain that sense of integrity and acting in truth, or you'll have to put part of yourself to one side in order to play the role so that that part of you is different from you as a human being. As in, let's say you're a parent and you have to play a role in some description that's murdering babies and things. There's a part of you that will have to shut itself down in order to act this well. So you're expected to be emotionally available all the time, yet professionally composed in this work. You perform while you're anxious or ill or heartbroken, dealing with rejection and judgment on a regular basis. And many people work punishing schedules just to stay in this game. You know, I've been in various workshops where you've got to stay in the game. So if you're doing normal work and auditioning on the side or whatever it is. And some of us are teaching and auditioning and performing, sometimes concurrently. I haven't even touched on the friends and family events you'll inevitably miss out on or be absent from because a run of a production has been extended. Oh, look at that, or that last minute audition. So lots of sacrifice, personal, professional, no arguments there. So when harms of any kind, like abuse, happen in that world, when someone crosses a line, manipulates you, coerces you, or uses their power against you, it can cut deep. It's not just about what's happened or maybe still happening. It's about everything you've invested in your career. For a performer who's being abused, whatever that looks like, it hits someone who's already stretched to their limit, someone who's been trained to keep going no matter what. I'll say it again, the show must go on. That's what's drummed into us all. I'm a performer as well as a therapist, in case you haven't noticed. Abuse in the arts can take many forms. Physical violence. We'd like to think that's clear as to what that is, but the not so obvious and more subtle, like sexual coercion, bullying, humiliation, manipulation, financial exploitation, or psychological control. It can come from directors, teachers, agents, colleagues, anyone with influence. Sometimes it's blatant, and at other times, as I've just said, it's subtle and confusing, because the performing world relies so much on trust and vulnerability. People often doubt themselves. Was it really abuse? Did I overreact? How often have we had, hey, you're too sensitive, or can't you take a joke, or all this kind of thing? Will anyone believe me? That's one I've heard quite a lot. And that uncertainty can be just as damaging as the events themselves. And when people around you minimize it, so let's say you have plucked up the courage to share it, right? You're clear about this, right? This has happened. I need to tell somebody. And then that somebody is like, that's just the industry, or you need to be thick-skinned. The isolation can also make things worse. It's completely understandable if your first instinct is to walk away from the industry altogether. Many people feel they can't face audiences, rehearsals, or being around anyone connected to that world again. The stage, set, even the sound of applause can all get tangled up with what happened. There's dark stuff behind the proverbial curtain, as it were. For some performers, leaving the industry feels like self-preservation. Sometimes it is absolutely the right choice. But there's another possibility I'd like to put to you that's less talked about, and that is taking a break and working through the painful stuff. You don't have to make this decision, stay or go, while you're still traumatized. When you've experienced abuse, your system is in a survival state. It's wired to protect you, to avoid reminders, to shut down, or to keep you busy so you don't have to feel it or think about that thing or things. Making big life decisions from that place can mean you end up walking away from not just the harmful things that happened, but also from something you used to love. And maybe a fragment, however small, of that love is still there underneath all the layers of planet awful. That's why, before deciding whether to leave or stay, it can help to process what happened, to find a way to put words to it, to name it for what it is, and to understand how it's affected you. Working through it doesn't mean forgiving the person or persons, let me be clear about that, or going back to unsafe situations. It means giving yourself a chance to reclaim your own voice and perspective and self-agency before deciding what comes next. You may discover that performing is still part of who you are. It just looks different now. Or you may realize you want something entirely new. Either way, the choice becomes yours, not something made out of pain or fear. Therapy can be a place to do that work, to talk about the event or events themselves, the confusion, the loss of trust, the way it's affected your confidence and or identity. If you're from the performing arts, it can be especially important to work with someone who understands the culture, that unofficial, sometimes, hierarchy, the competitiveness, the vulnerability that's built into it all, and how life-consuming it is. Doing trauma work in therapy doesn't have to mean reliving your trauma. I'll say that again. Doing trauma work does not have to mean reliving your trauma. I'm a blind psychotherapeutic counselor, as you probably know, and I'm also a performer. And I'm a performer currently. I haven't left to do this. I'm a therapist and I'm a performer. And there's another video about how I balance all that, link below. So coming back with my therapy hat on, my specialisms are bereavement, depression, anxiety, trauma, disability, chronic pain, and suicidal thoughts. So I hope you can feel safe in the knowledge that talking about what happened in detail is not necessary, not if you don't want to. It is possible to express your pain with or without words. And we could be focused on coping strategies to help with mental or emotional symptoms or building stress tolerance skills. And sometimes the processing of the nitty-gritty detail of what happened in your mind and body can happen behind the scenes. Your brain could be percolating away like a coffee machine while we're focusing on other more day-to-day things. And the overall goal isn't to get over it as such, but to make sense of it so it stops defining what you do next. For some people, that might mean returning to the industry with new boundaries. For others, it might mean closing that chapter fully, but from a place of choice and understanding, not fear. Abuse in artistic settings often leaves marks which go beyond the initial harm caused. You may notice a loss of confidence, a fear of being seen, or a sense that your creativity has gone numb. And those reactions are completely normal. I'll repeat that. Those reactions are completely normal. They're protective, and with time and the right support, they can change. You can perform again or express yourself creatively without feeling like the past is pulling your strings. It's not about forgetting, it's about regaining control over how you relate to your craft and to yourself. You may well need space and time away from the hectic environment that is the performing arts while you're deciding what to do with the rest of your working life. It's hard to unpack your mental health stuff coherently and take space whilst walking across this blasted heath and shouting about how sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. I hope some of you caught that one. If you read certain publications, like The Stage, you'll be familiar with the term resting jobs. So you could do something else for a bit that's less demanding on the old brain, so that you're not stressed about money while you do your mental health work. And that way you can work out what you need. Because sometimes it's hard to know. If you're unsure what you need, start with safety. That could mean speaking to a trusted friend, reaching out to a counselor, or contacting an organization that supports survivors in the arts, like Equity's Safe Spaces helpline or the Survivors Trust. The Musicians Union has a helpline as well. You might be familiar with BAPAM, that's BAPAM, that's the British Association of Performing Arts Medicine. And there will be links to all of these below this video, okay? You don't need to have everything worked out to ask for help either. You just need to take one step towards being heard. And trust me when I say that the services above will not devalue your experience. You may have tried talking, I've tried talking to somebody and look where that got me, like nowhere. That will not happen if you contact any of the services above. If you think you're in crisis, reach out urgently for help. Samaritans is 116123, or you can text SHOUT, that's in all capitals, to 85258. And they are both free 24-hour services. You do not ever, ever, ever have to cope alone. If you've experienced abuse or coercion in the performing arts industry, it's understandable to want to leave it all behind. But before you walk away, give yourself the chance to work through the impact of what's happened. You deserve the freedom to make a clear choice, not shaped by trauma or fear. Whether you stay or leave or find a new direction, the most important thing is you get to decide, and when you're ready. So thanks for joining me for this. I know this is a sensitive yet necessary subject to talk about. So thanks again for your company and your valuable time. Like and subscribe for more interesting content. If you want more videos like this or want something specific from me, then comment below. Until next time, take care and bye for now.